right now. So for the last 2 years, my biggest sort of emphasis when I'm not working, when I'm at home, and it's evenings and whatnot, and when I really dive into philosophy, my biggest emphases have been two. One is like critical theory. I got into it last year, since like June of 2020. Have really kind of understood what that is and how that works, kind of all of its basic philosophical principles. But the other thing that I'm really like fascinated by is natural law. I think I have some videos on this channel from like 2019 is when I first got back into philosophy heavily and began to study and began to understand how it all comes together. Because I've been influenced by healthy philosophy for most of my life. But that happened because of kind of providential good authors that I just happened to have been exposed to from the beginning, which were very constructive to my ways of thinking and just very helpful to help me understand how to live, right? But what happened was I drifted away from formal philosophy for all these years, for 10, 15 years, because I got the message and I just went on to live it. And so now that I'm older, I'm gonna be 40 in a month. What I've realized now is that I want to give it back and bring that philosophy that's been so helpful to me back, put it back into the common consciousness. I don't think it's much out there at all. I think it's very healthy and helpful and almost nobody knows about it. So when I began to try to put it out there, and there are some philosophy videos of myself trying to do it like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it's really not well done. It's not very competent. I wasn't sharp. I didn't know what I was doing. And that's because I thought I knew what I'm doing. I thought I knew philosophy from a formal standpoint, and I forgot a lot of it. I knew it from like a lived standpoint, how to live it. I no longer remembered how to explain it, how to formally present, if you will, these concepts. I just knew how to live by them. So when I saw myself being embarrassed in those videos, I'm like, man, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I just know how to do it. I don't really know how to explain it. I was like, okay, is this something worth diving into? So with natural law being the first one, and more recently classical philosophy in general, classical philosophers, kind of like the history of philosophy from ancient Romans down through the Middle Ages, down to the early modern period, down to like, Kant and post-Kant, like the whole history of philosophy has been kind of on my sweep. And I've just been diving into the problem of universals, or the problem of objectivity, right? Or like virtue ethics versus well, not virtue ethics, but more like natural law. I mentioned that as one big subspecialty in philosophy. Like, did Aristotle like advocate natural law? Or he didn't. So like, who did? Why do we have that set of values and views? How does one defend natural law? It's like a big thing for me. In the evenings when I'm at home and I'm tired of work, I'm like, how does one defend natural law? What is natural law and what is nature? What is nature? What does that mean? Is it just like gardening and like greenery? Is it animal zoos? Like, what is nature? Can one say that things have natures or essences? And what's an essence? Is essence the same thing as nature? Not simple stuff. And then what has, if it does, what does have essences? And do we have essences? And if we do, what are they? What is human nature? And then if we have it, do you have to act on it? Like, is it obligatory? Like, the things that are in our nature, are they merely suggestive or are they obligatory? Like, these are kind of like nerdy things that philosophers ask but I do think they're important, and more importantly, they're just interesting to me. So I've been diving into all of that lately. What I'd like to do in the next year or two is write a book or two, kind of on this stuff. There hasn't been, I think, written a good book on like the objective classical tradition of philosophy, kind of like summarizing it and encapsulating it from all the different branches: metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, logic, reason, universals. There's so many different features of the classical worldview that I think are important and helpful and healthy that haven't been heard about. Nature, natural law, like there's a lot of it that has been around in the water for thousands of years, and now it's not. And for me, when I discovered those things, I was like blown away by them 20, 30 years ago. I lived well and successfully as a human being from that standpoint by having them. And now I want to, not having seen a book like what I needed when I was little, and not seeing a book that's really good for capturing all those views in one place today in 2021. I think having a single book that could sort of capture and encapsulate 3,000 years of the best thinking on the most important questions of life could be kind of fascinating, and sort of bypass all the silly debates philosophers today, modern philosophers, are having, which is kind of silly nonsense most of the time, and really to get back to the most important things, the important questions, not silliness that passes for modern philosophy. So anyway, that's on my radar. Is Burst Media Day still going in the background? Burst is going more than ever, and philosophy and family above all else. Family is, and children and wife is like at the top of my mind. So that's me with an update, with a nutshell of everything happening. A lot more to come soon.